Today we're going to be entering the magical world of tremolo, learning all about it, different types, how it affects your tuning, and should it be called tremolo? Spoiler alert, no! Stick around. How's it going, you guys? My name is Cooper Greenberg here at Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. Find us online at alamomusic.com. And like I said, today we're going to be looking at tremolo, and I asked before, should it be called tremolo? No, it should not. It is actually vibrato. Vibrato is the effect of having pitch modulated up and down in rapid succession, and tremolo refers to a modulation of volume. But thanks to Leo Fender, the word tremolo has been thrown around ever since his synchronized tremolo system, which we'll be discussing today. So, you'll hear those words kind of used interchangeably. If you're looking at pedals and you want this effect, you're going to be wanting to look for a vibrato pedal. Tremolo, also very cool, but not what we're discussing today in its truest form. But we're going to be talking about different types of tremolo systems on different types of guitars, and just kind of discussing the pros and cons of each, mostly showing you what each one sounds like. So we're going to start with the one I have in my hands right now, probably the O-est of G's when it comes to this effect, which is the Bigsby. And today I've got a Bigsby on a guitar that does not typically come with a Bigsby. This is a Les Paul Modern. And interestingly enough, this is one that we actually did a demo on. This is the exact one, and it was purchased and then brought back to us to resell with a aftermarket Bigsby put into it. So as you can probably deduce, a lot of guitars may come with these, but you can also get aftermarket ones put on. And it is kind of one of the original classics before it was even mistakenly called tremolo. The Bigsby is a vibrato system that gets installed into a guitar, and by using this rocker bridge, you kind of feed your strings through these holes on the bridge, and then using this bar, push down, and it will kind of mess with the tension there and give you a very subtle, very smooth type of pitch modulation effect. Very popularly used on hollow body guitars and a lot of jazz and country. Very pleasant sound, but also really messes with your tuning stability, so should be used sparingly or with the knowledge that you're going to be coming out of these chords probably with some changes in your tuning due to the amount of friction that it puts up on your nut, and stretching out the strings and kind of returning them to a different tension, albeit very subtly. So probably it's going to require a lot of retuning at the end of songs, but there's a reason why this has become one of the most enduring and popular styles of this effect. It's a very beautiful sound, very subtle. So let's take a listen and then we'll talk about it. So there you go. There's the Bigsby. It's probably a sound that you've heard on a ton of records and probably played one before. I think that, on something like a Les Paul, something with humbuckers, it gives you a big, beautiful, warm, subtle, kind of interesting tone that can only really be captured by the Bigsby. But again, that tuning is a problem for a lot of people. Also, there's the question of range and how deep you can go, if you can go higher, like bend up. And the Bigsby, while giving you the ability to kind of bend up a little bit, it's really not made for that. It's probably going to mess with your tuning even more, especially as our guy Josh behind the camera pointed out. Probably on a Gibson, while one of the most common guitars that you see a Bigsby with, that headstock angle, tuning issues that you already experience with something like this, probably not the most kosher combination there. However, it sounds so nice that when you really nail it, you know, who cares? It's a great tone. But to move on from there, we're going to be talking about the Leo Fender patented, call it the wrong name, tremolo system, synchronized tremolo that was popularized on the Stratocaster. Now, this may be the most common because almost every Stratocaster comes with it. You're hard-pressed to find one of these that does not have the whammy bar put in there already. But Leo Fender, you know, designed this to kind of counteract some of those tuning stability issues and also give you some more options, a little more range, a little more depth of a vibrato tremolo that you can get out of this thing. So again, you've probably played one of these. You string up this differently, so you put your strings through the back of the guitar. If you were to take off this plate on the back, you'd see some springs in there. So you've got some screws up here in which the springs are anchored, and then this block in there you run your strings through. So you're going through the body, out the bridge, and then you can set up this tremolo system in kind of two different ways. So you can have it flush with the body, or you can have it floating a little bit. And now the floating will give you the opportunity to bend upwards a little bit and get a lot more range. But again, if you pop a string, you're gonna have a bad time. This is an American Professional 2 Stratocaster. We did a video on these recently. And so these are actually pop-in, not screw-in tremolo arms, but it's gonna give you the same exact effect. So let's listen to it a little bit and you'll kind of hear the difference and the range from the Bigsby. So there you have it. That is the Strat style tremolo system, integrated bridge, floating, or flush, but very different tone, very different tonal capabilities. You can get a lot more experimental kind of effects out of this. You can bend way up. You can do some very articulated flutter type things, which make it probably a little more versatile than a Bigsby, but to each their own. They're both great kind of options just in terms of the type of music that you would like to play. So after this Strat style, we're going to move to Leo Fender's next kind of entry into this conversation, which is the floating Jazzmaster style bridge. Again, much different kind of vibe here. It's locking, so on a lot of Jazzmasters you can lock this trem or you can keep it floating, but this is not a string through like the Stratocaster. This is strung at the bottom of the guitar, and then your trem just messes with the depth of what this piece that is floating on the bridge. Now on this, it was very popular with surf musicians because you get a little closer to more of that Bigsby subtlety, a lot less range than your integrated, synchronized Strat type style. But there is still a little bit more, area that you can move. You can bend up a little bit further than a Bigsby and get closer to more of a dive bomb kind of thing. But since it's floating, again, if you pop a string, you're gonna have a bad time with your tuning, but you can lock it to kind of counteract that. It's gonna take some of your range away if you're playing with it locked, but it does help in a live setting. So let's take a listen and hear what you think. So there you go. I personally play Jazzmaster more than anything else, and I have found that I really like the trem system. It's very subtle, very pretty, but even when it's in a locked position, you can get a little something, so you kind of don't have to worry about if you pop a string. Hopefully you're not popping strings left and right, but the tuning stability is kind of a nice thing to appreciate in this system. And next, I want to go to something that is kind of an honorable mention on this list. I know that it's way less prevalent than a lot of these, but I really dig the Maestro Vibrola. And again, nomenclature-wise, they got this one a little more right than Leo Fender did. But you're probably not going to find this on a ton of guitars. It's that 61 SG kind of vibe. There was a different version, which I wish that I could show you in this video. We just don't have one here, which is the side pull Maestro Vibrola. It's very cool. You just pull it up from the side, and so you can get a lot more, like a different kind of angle. It's just something cool in guitar lore and history that I advise you to go check out because it's really cool. But the Maestro kind of uses the same rocker bridge style as the Bigsby. It's going to have very similar tone to the Bigsby, and something like a guitar that we looked at earlier this year, the Brian Ray White Fox SG, has the Maestro in it, but then has it kind of convertible to a regular stop tail, so you can bypass that whole system. But it looks very majestic, it sounds very cool, and I felt obligated to put in this list because we've had this Epiphone hanging around for a while that has it. It models it after the kind of original SG style that we've seen with some of the higher end Gibson stuff. So wanted you to hear this one. It sounds very cool. Let's check it out. So there you have it. That's the Maestro Vibrola right there. Again, tonally similar to what you get from Bigsby, but just kind of a very cool aesthetic, something a little different. But now I think it's worth it to get to the one that everybody that's a crazy fan of has been waiting for, the Mac Daddy of all trem systems, which would be the Floyd Rose. And with these previous ones, we've talked a lot about tuning, stability, the range. This one really marks all of those boxes to the nth degree. It is completely tailor-made to have the wildest range while keeping you in tune when you're playing. However, the setup is the true nightmare of this thing. So if you've been to Alamo Music and you wanted a restring, we have a certain price. And then if you mention that it's a Floyd Rose, you're going to get a little bit of an upcharge because they're very hard to set up. But when you get there, you kind of get all the benefits of this thing, which make it so desirable for a lot of metal players, a lot of very experimental sound magicians. This thing features locks at both places, at the nut and at the bridge, that keep you in tune the whole time that you're rocking this thing out. You have these hex bolt manipulated locks up here. And then down here, there's a lot of gadgetry going on. There's actually a carve deep in the body, so you can bend way up, you can bend way down for Eddie Van Halen dive bombs. And then if you've ever played a Floyd Rose, you know that you must unlock these things to get back in tune. However, they do have fine tuners at the bottom for little tiny adjustments that you can make without having to get your Allen wrench out and everything. But like I said, if everything's good to go on this thing, you shouldn't be falling out of tune anyway. So we're gonna get some sound samples from this thing. I'm not the best metal guitar player. I'm not a shredder. I hopefully can communicate some of the qualities that you can get out of this thing that you cannot from any of the previous options. So on this player Strat, which is probably not the thing that you'd expect a Floyd Rose to be on, let's check it out. So there's Floyd Rose. We would advise you, if you're interested in purchasing a guitar with a Floyd Rose, maybe save up double that amount and get 2 of them, because if you're in a live setting, you're gonna have a really hard time switching that string in the middle of a set, so you might as well just have a little replacement there. But jokes aside, all of these tremolo and vibrato systems have their place in certain genres. For something like this, if you're going to be rocking out and shredding and doing Yngwie stuff, Floyd Rose is probably going to be your best bet. If you're looking at surf music or jazz music, maybe something a little subtler with less range, but you know, more of a classic vibe, kind of like a Bigsby or say the Jazzmaster style floating bridge. However, a lot of you probably are most familiar with the whammy bar of the Stratocaster style, and that's what I started on. That's kind of what I'm most comfortable with. I think that something like that has probably the most versatility of all these. I mean, obviously Floyd will give you everything you need, but you're probably going to start growing your hair out and doing all kinds of weird stuff. You're probably going to buy a lot of pedals. So, you know, just find the one that's right for you, because all of these kind of have their place. If you have a guitar that does not have a tremolo system, probably going to be looking at putting maybe a Bigsby on it, because that's kind of your aftermarket choice if you don't want to be doing a ton of routing and getting, you know, the guts of your guitar all carved up. However, all of these are very cool options. If you want to learn more about them, we have all these available at alamomusic.com. And if you have any questions about, you know, your style of music, where you might fall on this vibrato spectrum, we'd love to answer your questions. So please give us a call or chat online. And if you like the video, if you have any other options to present that I missed in this video, obviously I'm kind of scratching the surface, because there's a ton of great aftermarket, much more gearhead type options. So let us know in the comments below. If you don't like it, you should have stopped this video a long time ago. But please subscribe, because we're trying to get to our goal number of 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So we really appreciate you guys watching these videos, and we'll see you next time.